Gemara in Megillah tells us about different levels of Kedusha. We all know there is the Sefer Torah, the Guf HaKedusha, that the cloth, the writing on the Torah scroll, that's considered the highest level of Kedusha in terms of inanimate objects, not including human beings, and Jews are the highest level, or well, of course we're the highest level of Kedusha, but in terms of Sifrei Kodesh, so the Sefer Torah, Tefillin, Mezuzahs are known as, the actual writing, the cloth is known as Guf HaKedusha. In fact, that's why the saying is the Gemara Menachas, by Stam it's known, like you see Stam, Sofer, Stam, the Samach stands for Sefer Torah, the Taf Tefillin, and the Mem Mezuzah. It's basically a Sofer takes care of Stam, Sefer Torah, Mezuzahs. And the Kutzka used to always say, there's an expression people use, he's Stam a Yid. Like Stam means a regular person. He says, no, Stam a Yid. Every Jew is Sefer Torah, Tefillin, and Mezuzahs. Every Jew has a high level of Kedusha. But either way, there's what we call Guf HaKedusha, like a Sefer Torah, Tefillin, and Mezuzahs. So what happens when a Sefer Torah ruins, becomes puzzle, is no longer usable, or Tefillin, or Mezuzahs? So that's what happens to those objects. That's called Tashmishe Kedusha. Tashmishe Kedusha, things that are used to service the Kedusha, Tashmis uses. So Tashmishe Kedusha, things that are used to facilitate the use of them. So let's say the mantle of a Sefer Torah, the cover of a Sefer Torah, or if the Sefer Torah itself is no longer a Sefer Torah puzzle, we'll get into in terms of what's the status of a Torah that a Sefer Torah that is no good anymore. Could that be put back in the Aron Kodesh? Does that have the same level of Kedusha? Because there's halacha malin b'kodesh ve'ein moridin. There's a halacha, you always have to go up in sanctity, you can't go down. That's why every morning, surely we're going to be putting on our talis, then we're going to be putting on our tefillin, because tefillin's a higher level Kedusha than talis. So malin b'kodesh ve'ein moridin. So the Aron Kodesh, which is used for Sifrei Torah, so you really can't put anything else in. People make a mistake on Simchas Torah. When they empty out all the Sifrei Torah, they feel bad for the Aron Kodesh that they put in like a chumash or something. That's not appropriate, because the chumash is, even though it is Kadosh, but it's on a lower level of Kedusha. Then so really, the question is, can you put a puzzle Sefer Torah in an Aron Kodesh? We'll come back to that question. So there's Tashmishe Kedusha, what the Gemara calls Tashmishe Mitzvah. Tashmishe Mitzvah would be, let's say, a shofar. After Bisman HaMitzvah, in the time when it's being used for the mitzvah, it has Kedusha. But after the mitzvah is over, let's say the shofar breaks and it can't be used anymore. That's called Tashmishe Mitzvah. Or let's say when you finish using the lulav and esrog, or when you finish using the sukkah, you can't fix it anymore. It's Tashmishe Mitzvah. So what's the status of Tashmishe Kedusha and Tashmishe Mitzvah? So certainly, if it's Tashmishe Kedusha, Sefer Torah, Tefillin, Mezuzahs are no longer in use. So the Gemara says, Ta'un Kfura, it requires burial. Tashmishe Mitzvah Nizrakin. Tashmishe Mitzvah could be thrown out in the garbage. Of course, the Rishonim and the Post can point out, you should still, even though strictly speaking, it doesn't retain its Kedusha, it doesn't have to be buried, but you shouldn't throw it out derech bizayim, like put it into a separate bag. If you're throwing out a shofar, or you put it in a separate spot, then it shouldn't be thrown in just together, literally with the garbage. But the point is, Achar Mitzvah, so there's no more Kedusha, and therefore one is permitted to throw it out. So that's, and in fact, that's what Rav Chaim Volozhin writes, that it is, and he talks about many things, so he writes that why is a Jew obligated to be buried? As I spoke about last week, since it was Zayin Adar, the yard site of Moshe Rabbeinu, and it's Chevra Kadisha Day, where the Chevra Kadishas all over the world get together. So why is there an obligation for? Of course, the simple answer is because the pasuk says so in Parshas Ki Seitzei, Kavar Tikvareno Bayom Ahud. The Torah tells us it's a mitzvah burial. Or be the pasuk is referring to someone killed by Mises Beistin, by the court. Nevertheless, we learn that applies to everyone. But Rav Chaim Volozhin says, not contradicting, but he's explaining why does the Torah give us an obligation, not what the source is, but why are we required to bury a Jew? And he explains because every Jew is a Tashmish Kedusha, because as we are all familiar with the Gemara in Nida, which tells us that every Jew is taught Kol Torah Kulo, we're taught the whole Torah in the fetus, and on your way out, the Malach gives us a little bang on the mouth or somewhere, and you forget all the Torah you learned. So what's the point of doing it? If you can forget everything you did, so why bother teaching us? And that's what Chaim Volozhin writes. No, to show that every Jew has the potential to learn Kol Torah Kulo.
We have an obligation if we come upon a Jew, at any rate, and that's dead, to bury them. Do we have the same obligation if we either don't know if they're Jewish or if we know they're not Jewish?
Yeah, so that's the Gemara in Gittin. The Gemara in Gittin talks about that. If you see, it talks about as well, Aniye Akam, whether it's, you have a poor Jew and poor guy, or, whether the Gemara spells Akfura explicitly or it's understood that you have an obligation. The obligation would be in terms of Kfura. In other words, we're saying from a Jewish legal point of view, let's say if a guy wanted to do cremation, it would be okay, or some other means.
He made the choice.
Right, exactly, yeah. I'm saying it's true. But a part of the mitzvah of Darkei Shalom, of course, we go ahead and bury a non. Certainly, if you weren't sure if it was a Jew,
right,
but then it would fit in on the Darkei Shalom, that you'd have to, if that was the normal way, because then, you can't expect them, it's a two-way street. It's like maybe it's a discussion, but assuming according to those opinions that say tzedakah would only apply to a Jew and not a guy, nevertheless the Gemara says you have to mefarsim ani yakim and Yisrael because of Darkei Shalom. Then so there's two different. There's the legal definition if you have to, and then there's the general question of society functions. So of course you would. The answer is you would anyway, but not necessarily not because of the technical legal obligation that Judaism requires a guy to be buried, but for other, societal reasons.
Either way, you should do that.
Yeah, right. And that's what they point out, because it's not a matter of mitzvahs, because a non-Jew has 7 mitzvahs. It's not that we have 6, 13, they have 7. It's nothing to do with why the chiyuv, again, this is Rav Chaim Volozhin, is because since every Jew has Torah in it, so you're a Tashmishe Kedusha, and therefore the chiyuv out the laws of Tashmishe Kedusha, it's like you have to bury a Sefer Torah, you have to bury a Jew. Yeah, Jeff. The other Jeff.
That's another question, which should be a non-Jew guess. If we rule, create B'tzilim Elokim, such a disgrace.
Yes, it has to do. Right, that gets into also with the pasuk in Parashas Ki Seitzei. It talks about Bosalin of Lasso 8. Besides the mitzvah of burial, there's another prohibition of leaving a body overnight, and again, that's where it gets into the technical discussion, Adam, whether Adam refers to everyone or Adam just a Jew. The bottom line is, of course, we're going to do it. But I'm just talking here from a pure halacha technical point of view, not that of course you should, just like you should give him tzedakah, you should bury them. I'm not saying what you should do. I'm saying in terms of obligation. I'm saying from ours. I'm not saying they might not even want it as today, and that. So therefore they point out that's the halacha of Tashmishe Kedusha. So Tashmishe Kedusha Nikvarim, Tashmishe Mitzvah you have to bury, Tashmishe Mitzvah in theory Nikvarim, Nizrakim. So interesting enough, there's what about the tefillin bag? Not the talis bag, the tefillin. Most people have a small tefillin bag which they put into the talis bag. What's the status of the tefillin zekel, as they call it? Let's say it rips, overuse, of course, from davening, from putting on your tefillin all the time, and you need a new bag now. So what do you do with the old bag? What is the status of the tefillin bag? So the question is, what's actually touching the tefillin bag? So obviously the cloth inside the tefillin that's covered up. So the batim are clearly tashmishe kedusha. The boxes that hold the Torah scrolls inside, that clearly has the status of tashmishe kedusha. However, most of us have covers. We have those boxes. We put the tefillin in. So the tefillin boxes are tashmish to tashmish. That's the second level, not directly touching it. In other words, the cloth, because the tefillin itself is touching the cloth, but the box is already a second level. It's only the status of tashmish and mitzvah, but it's called tashmish to tashmish. So that's the question. If that's the case, then the tefillin bag shouldn't have an issue.
It's a third level.
Yeah, so that's the question.
Even the second level shouldn't really.
Right, no, so the issue is, so strictly speaking, you would say you could throw them out. However, it's not so simple. It's a machlokas, Rashi and Tosfos, because some claim the ritzuas are a gufa kedusha, because we know we put on the straps of the tefillin, we have different letters, shin, daled, yud, which is God's name. So some Rishonim say the ritzuas themselves are gufa kedusha. That's Torah writing, and therefore that would make the tefillin bag tashmishe kedusha, and hence you'd have to bury them. Since it's a machlokes, Rashi and Tosfos, we go l'chumra, and therefore we do not throw out the tefillin bag. You might as well put everything else in shemas that don't belong. You might as well put the things that belong in shemas, and the tefillin bag we will mark it as the status of tashmishe kedusha, and it should not be thrown out. It should be put in shemas. Similarly, people make a mistake regarding a mezuzah. So we know mezuzah as well as gufa kedusha, but most people, not them, if they get it from an appropriate sofer, the cloth is going to come rolled up, and then you put it in a saran wrap.
Right.
So then people put up, let's say, $1,000 mezuzah cover. So strictly speaking, the saran wrap, which costs about 10 cents, that has a din of tashmishe kedusha.
Right.
That's directly touching the cloth. But the mezuzah cover, in theory, it's $1,000 one, could be thrown out because it's not actually touching it. But really, anyway, the minig is not to, because some say it's done with covered the mezuzah, so I'm not saying you should throw that, but certainly the saran wrap definitely cannot be thrown out. That's clearly tashmishe kedusha, and the minig is not to throw out the mezuzah cover either, because it's go covered. It's like for instance the Aron Kodesh. You had a question?
As far as would it not be a separate mitzvah, like maybe it's a keli and
that Zekei would tell me to put up a nice mezuzah. I wasn't saying. I wasn't.
In addition to
no, I wasn't saying you shouldn't put up a nice mezuzah cover. I was just saying it might not have to be thrown. Once it's no good, it might not have to be buried. That's Zekei is in general. You try to buy a nice pair of tefillin, and right, it still would be under Zekei and Veyo. I'm talking about the dins of burial. What about the status of an Aron Kodesh? So the Gemara tells us the Aron Kodesh has the status of tashmishe kedusha. So at first glance it seems difficult, because why? To me it shouldn't. I wouldn't have said it was tashmishe kedusha, because the Torah itself is the kadosh, the mantle, the covers for the Sifrei Torah, tashmishe kedusha. The Torah itself is never touching the Aron Kodesh. So really I would think it should be tashmish to tashmish, a second level, and therefore it should be nizrak, and you should be able to throw it in the garbage, the Aron Kodesh. However, the Gemara says no. So what's the pshat? So there's a pshat in the Karban Nesano I like a lot, but the poskim don't like it. So I'll tell you what he says, and I'll give you what the poskim say. The Karban Nesano says I like it just in terms of the principle, because it's something I always mention all the time, that the Torah given by Moshe Rabbeinu is eternal. The principles remain forever. The halacha never changes. However, I'm always asked, does Jewish law change? So I say it depends what you mean. Do you mean do the principles change, or do you mean the actual psak changes? So I always say, if you ask, in theory, you can ask me the same question today, 200 years ago, and probably 200 years from now, and you might get a different answer. So what do I mean? The principles change, but the world changes. So obviously you got to take the halacha, which is dynamic and fluid, and apply the principle to what the reality is. So the Karban Nesano writes, the Zman HaMishnah, Zman HaGemara, they weren't like affluent North America. So what do you mean Torah covers mantles for all the Sifrei Torah? Probably in Europe they didn't either. They used to put the Sifrei Torah in, so to speak, arum, naked, without any cover. there was one cover they used to leave out, so at any time they took out the Sefer Torah, they covered it up. So that's what he wants to say. Bisman HaGemara, when they actually put the Torah scrolls in without any coverage, that's why it was Tashmishe Kedusha. But the Korban Nezaron says Bisman HaZeh, during his time, certainly now, he claims the Aron Kodesh would not have a status of Tashmishe Kedusha. But I like his answer for the principle, but none of the poskim accept it. So we have to come up with another answer, halach l'maisa. Why do we consider the Aron Kodesh Tashmishe Kedusha? So some suggest perhaps, and if you're a Sephardi, maybe it's true, that some Sephardim have like those Torahs where the bottom actually touches. We have where the Torah, we have the Atzei. So some want to say that today also that maybe the things we rested on touch the ground, but that's not really the Torah itself. That's only the wood. And many Aron Kodesh have a carpet inside. So basically, what the poskim say is another halacha. What if like the stuff you put on top of the Torah, like the silver and all those different expensive decorations, is if you do something strictly l'kavod haTorah. So what's this? The definition we're working with still stands, is anything comes in direct contact with the Torah or Kedusha has Tashmishe Kedusha. But there's another, in addition to that, anything done strictly l'kavod haTorah that also is considered Tashmishe. So perhaps that's why I said the mezuzah cover might be Tashmishe Kedusha, even though it's not actually touching the cloth, because it's done l'kavod for the mezuzah. So the Aron Kodesh is done l'kavod Sefer Torah. The silver, the stuff you put on top is done. So that hence the poskim assume that has the status of Tashmishe Kedusha. Whatever the reason, we assume halacha that the Aron Kodesh does have a status of Tashmishe Kedusha, and it would have a din of Nigvarim. What about a Svarim shrank, a Svarim shelf? Where you have all the Svarim in there, so Pasha to be a Tashmishe Kedusha, and so people come in rightfully or wrongfully, they come in, they take their extra sheets and they leave it in the shul. It's a little less conspicuous. Imagine bringing the U-Haul truck and dumping the Svarim shelf in and leaving it there. So according to the Aruch HaShulchan, you chayev to bury a Svarim shelf. In fact, then I was thinking, coming from Brooklyn Borough Park, there's a store called Frankel's Svarim Shranks. And one of the things they always used to, I never put it together, I'm not even saying this is why, but there's a good reason why. They always say the Svarim shelves last forever, guaranteed. So I was thinking they go like the Aruch HaShulchan and they want to avoid the problem of having to bury them. But either way, they have two kinds. They have ones that don't even bend, and some that do bend but they don't break, they say. But either way, so they point out, so the Mishnah Brura is makel, is lenient, that you don't have to throw out Svarim shranks, because why? He says because today the books have covers on them. So therefore, they're not actually, the Sefer itself is not touching, even though I'm sure you have a lot of books without covers, but and the minhag seems to be like the Mishnah Brura, that we don't go ahead and bury them. So getting back, so now that you have the background information, now we can deal with the question. The question is, this week, Moshe Rabbeinu is going to be breaking the luchos. And we all know the shivrei luchos, the broken luchos. Whatever happened to the broken luchos? Did they recycle them? Were they thrown in the garbage? Whatever happened to the shivrei luchos?
Same thing that happened to the ones that weren't broken. We don't know. They're somewhere.
No, let me rephrase. I don't mean where they are today. I mean what happened at the time. What did Moshe Rabbeinu do with them? That's what I mean.
Right. Yeah, he treated them the same way as the unbroken ones.
Meaning what? Where did they go?
They got stored in the Aron.
Did they in the same Aron, a different Aron? Where did they get stored? So that's actually a discussion in the Bavli and the Yerushalmi. Whatever happened to the shivrei luchos? What happened to the pieces of the luchos? So the two schools of thought. One says they were put in together with the luchos themselves. Another school of thought says no, they were put in a separate Aron. My nafkamina, who cares? Halacha l'maisa, what they did then. Why are we interested? What happened to the shivrei luchos? How does it affect me today? Whether the shivrei luchos were put into their own Aron, or they were put into together with the luchos, with the full one. So the Binyan Senior wants to say, you know what the nafkamina, the practical difference today, halacha l'maisa, would be is, let's say you have a puzzle Sefer Torah. a lot of times you find you're reading the Torah, it's a mistake. So some Sefer Torah you can't fix, some you can. So are you allowed to put the puzzle Sefer Torah back into the Aron Kodesh? Because we said Malin B'Kodesh Ve'ein Moridin. What's the status of a puzzle Sefer Torah? Does it have the same level of Kedusha as a kosher Sefer Torah? So that's what the Binyan Siyun, that's in the Kudas HaMachlokas here, what happened to the Shivrei Luchos. If the Shivrei Luchos were put into their own ark, that means they were on a lower level of Kedusha. They couldn't be put together with the Luchos HaBris, and therefore they had to be stored separately. But according to the opinion that they were stored together with the Luchos, that means even though it's a puzzle Sefer Torah, but in terms of its Kedusha, that's the way we pass, and we put back puzzle Sefer Torah into the Aron Kodesh. And as the Gemara tells us in Brachas, Tav Zayin, you have to be very careful to treat a Zakin, a Talmud Chacham, a Torah scholar, an elderly Talmud Chacham. I'm not going to get into how old is elderly, but you have to treat an elderly Torah scholar, Sheshachach Talmudo Machmas Onso, that forgot his Torah because of out of his control, because dementia or any type of disease. Why? Because as the Torah says, just like they put the Shivrei Luchos together with the Luchos to show that even after it was broken, it still had the same Kedusha as the Luchos, so too you have to treat a Talmud Chacham Sheshachach Lumudo. So we paskin that the Pasul Sefer Torah has the same status in terms of Kedusha, and therefore our meaning is we do put it back into the Aron Kodesh. That's based on, according to the Binyan Siyun, where they put the Shivrei Luchos. So we assume that they were put together with the Luchos, and therefore we could put a Pasul Sefer Torah back in.